Richard, I expect we now have kind of given everybody a chance to.
Tim is showing us something cool.
Yeah, this is what I'm using now on my, because I only bought a 512, so this is a USB-C Extreme Pro SSD, very, very fast.
2 terabytes.
2 terabytes. Am I
2
seeing that
terabytes.
correctly?
Yeah, it's about $300 though. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Your solid state memory is still more expensive, but in the overall scheme of things, dollars per terabyte or dollars per gigabyte or however you want to, calculate it, it's relatively inexpensive.
and you can take it with you. We get a new Mac,
That's
you can
right.
take that one with you.
And stick it in your pocket.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's fairly expensive, but it's certainly faster than a platter.
Now these things all plug into the Thunderbolt. Is that correct?
USB-C, the new.
Oh, the SBC?
USB-C.
It's the same connector. It'll fit.
That's the only connectors your M1 will have.
Correct.
We're all having to get rid of or adapt our old USB, whatever it was called, the big flat plug. Gone away.
So what I did is, I just went out and bought a TP-Link 8-port USB adapter, so I can still plug all my USB stuff in.
Yeah, or get a hub and
yeah, basically I got a hub.
solve nearly all your problems.
Yep. No
So
problem.
what good is a Thunderbolt connection? I mean, what do you plug in to that? Anyone?
Well, let's see. Thunderbolt's not really the connection. Thunderbolt is the what do you call it? The technology, the pathway, but the connector is USB. We had Thunderbolt with the old USB, but now the connectors have changed and they're faster and more versatile. They can do more things. You can charge through them. You can stick your external drive on it. You can play sound through it. So much more versatile than the old connector, the old.
Even run a display.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
That's what I'm doing today. I've got a second display running HDMI down to USB-C on my Mac Mini. And it's great. I mean, it's like having 2 computers almost.
That's great.
Of course,
So
that's one thing that's still missing on the M1s is supporting 2 displays. And I heard Taylor say the other day that's that's what he's waiting on, is an M1 that'll support 2 displays.
Well, the MacBook Pro, I think, has that problem, but the Mac Mini that I've got with my M1 does it. I'm doing it right now.
Oh, it does.
Good. So it sounds like this Thunderbolt thing is not very useful anymore.
We're still using Thunderbolt, aren't we? It's still Thunderbolt that we're.
Yeah, I think the USB-C is compatible with that.
Yeah,
that right?
that's my understanding, Byron. You have the functionality of Thunderbolt there. It's just you don't have to have a separate type of connector. There's a singular connector in these new computers. In fact, I have a brand new the last MacBook 15-inch MacBook Pro. It's still the Intel chip, but it has 4 of these USB-Cs. And if you have a Thunderbolt external device, you can, and the connection and the connector is the same as a USB-C, then you can plug it in. And if it's not, you can get a little adapter for a minimal amount of money. So that technology is not obsolete. It's still usable. And much of it is just already plug and play. It already fits.
When's the new MacBook Pro going to come out?
Hopefully September.
I hope so.
That's the best rumor.
I need a new one, but I don't want to get it until the new one comes out. I mean, to the new version.
Is it going to have an M1 too in September?
Everything's going to have the M1 from now on, a version of that.
Okay, it's 10:15. We'll go ahead and get started with the presentation.
Thank you.
Let me share my screen.
There we go.
Yes, so today we're going to talk about Plex. And I'm going to try to focus on the Apple devices. But personally, I did my own Plex a long time ago outside of Apple using Linux. So I'm not going to talk about that. That was a beating to get that going, but I did it, because that's what I do. I like playing with the hardware. But these days, it's, from what I can see, a lot easier and a lot more powerful. So we'll just talk about it. Let's see. So what is Plex? It is a way to show and share and watch your content, movies, TV shows, your home videos, music and photos, as long as you have what they call a Plex media server. So the Plex media server is the engine behind Plex. It's required for you to do this, and we're going to talk about the Plex media server. But once you have that, then it is pretty amazing what you can share to anyone in the world as long as you've got an internet connection. So the pieces that make up basically the entire Plex concept is first the server. You're going to have some hardware to do this, and it can be a Mac. The newer Macs can do it. If you've got a spare Mac Mini, from 2012 or later laying around, once you buy the M1 Mac Mini like I did, you could use that. Or you can buy what they call a NAS, a network attached storage device. The new NAS devices do natively support Plex in some cases. So we'll talk about that. Once you've got the hardware, you need the server software. And so there are some options.
Say what NAS stands for again? Network?
Network attached storage.
Attached storage. Okay.
I've got more slides on that coming up. The software comes in subscription format, like everything else these days. So, you can pay monthly, yearly, or you can pay lifetime, and I'll show you the different prices later on. And then, of course, your content, whatever content you've accumulated over the years, that's your main focus, getting that to where it's viewable and shareable anywhere. I'm not going to talk today about where the content comes from or how you get the content. That is a whole different discussion that I'm just not prepared to talk about today. So I'm assuming that you've got your content. Once you've got your content, then you can do this. You're going to need high-speed internet. A basic package from AT&T or Spectrum or Frontier, the lowest is not going to cut it. It needs to be pretty fast, and I'll talk about some speeds that you need to be looking at. Any user device these days, all the modern devices, computers, iPads, iPhones, can handle Plex, Apple TV. but you have to have a Plex app for that. And those are easy to get. You know, you can download a Plex app for any of those devices. And this is where the user comes in. The person who's going to watch your media, your content on these devices is going to have this Plex app. And that's different from the server software. So, and there might be a cost for the Plex app depending on which device you use. And I'll show you what that is. So those are all the pieces. You know, it's a lot of stuff, but the benefit you get from setting one of these things up is worth it, in my opinion. So what is it doing? So it's taking your content, which in this case would be your media on this slide, or it also allows you to share other people's content, friends' content. So it does allow that. So you're not limited to just your media. Plus, Plex is providing online content. So you don't even have to upload anything, and it will give you access to movies, TV shows, music. I mean, it's a lot of stuff. Now, I will say that having sampled some of these movies and shows, they are not what I would call A-list movies.
Mhm.
You know, but you know, some people like the B movies, the B- movies. Some of these are quite terrible, but it's there. So all that stuff is being funneled down through the Plex Media server, and the Plex Media server then serves that out to all the users that you have allowed access to your server. And it could be just one yourself. If you want to have access to your media anywhere in the world, you know, you could set it up for yourself if you're traveling a lot, or family and friends. But the more family and friends you have, the more powerful that server has to be, and the faster your internet connection has to be. So this is the benefit. You know, you've got your server hardware, you've got your storage, you've got your internet. Now you can watch your media anywhere you want. And if your setup is powerful enough, it can be with no interruptions, no buffering, no halting, you know, and stopping while it loads up. It is real time. And not only that, it will automatically on the fly change the format to support whatever device it's being served to. All right, let's talk about the hardware a little bit more. You do have a decision to make right up front. You know, do you want to go with a computer, or do you want to go with the NAS, the network attached storage device? Either one can work, but it really ought to be always on, you know, especially if you've got family and friends, because you don't want to have to be running around the house like I did one time at 3 in the morning when Rachel in Germany wants to watch a movie on Plex and go turn it on. And no. You want it to always be on so that anybody can watch it at any time. It needs to have what they call transcoding capability. I've got several charts on transcoding, so don't worry about that, the definition of that yet. I will explain that in excruciating detail if you'd like, but I do have a few more charts on transcoding. It has to be able to do that. Is this device going to be dedicated solely to Plex? In which case the NAS might be the best way to go. Or, you know, the computer too. If you've got the spare Mac Mini, you could dedicate that. If it's a multi-use device like your computer, depends on how powerful you want to make that computer. It could do it, but in that case, it might be better to do the NAS. So, you know, it might seem like I'm steering us towards the NAS. You know, I didn't do that, but these days that is definitely an option. Why not a combination of both? That is what I did. So I installed my server on a computer, and I'm using the NAS as the mass storage for all my content. So, and that works well. That's working for me right now. So that's an option too. Okay, let's talk about transcoding. Transcoding is the magic sauce that really makes Plex work well. What it means is you're changing a file. It's usually a video file, a movie, on the server to be compatible with the user's Plex app, because a lot of times some of these formats might be too new. You've got these H.264s and H.265s. I'm not going to go into what all that means, but some formats may be too new, or they might be too old for somebody's phone, you know, halfway across the world. And especially the mobile devices, the phones, you know, the screens are so small, you know, they tend to want to work in 720, you know, or under resolution. So if you've got a movie that's 4K and you're trying to serve it down to a phone that's running 720, the thing has to be able to handle that in real time, or you're going to get interruptions and pauses and buffering and stuff. So transcoding makes that happen real time. So you can see that, I mean, this takes a pretty powerful piece of hardware and software to do it. The Plex software can do it, which is called third party down at the bottom there. And for that to happen, it uses basically the raw CPU itself. I mean, it is just brute force transcoding. That's what my system does. Because I built a Linux server that did not have transcoding native to the hardware. My Plex software is doing it, and it's fine because my server is strong enough to handle it. Or you can have this first party where you buy a piece of hardware that natively supports Plex in the CPU of the hardware you bought. And some of the NAS devices do that today, which is very nice. So that the Plex software is not having to do the transcoding. That makes for a much more efficient use of the CPU. I mean, you might be using some technical stuff here. You might be 20% CPU usage in the first party or 90% in the third party, you know, so that the system can get hot. You know, if you're trying to multi-use the system for other things and you're doing 90% of the CPU on Plex, you know, you might be having some delays on some of your other apps. But you can do either way. Anybody have any questions so far about transcoding? You're just translating, basically. Okay, so, you know, if we're going to be transcoding, let's talk a little bit about the computer option. If you want to use a computer, there is a link you can go to. This support.plex.tv has all the technical stuff. And basically what you're looking at, if you want to do one 1080p, you know, high res feed with transcode. So you want to watch your own content anywhere and it's going to be 1080p through the internet. You're going to need at least a Core i5 processor to do this, which is a 4-core, 4-thread. You know, that's a pretty basic chip for this. It's a 2013 chip. Right now you can buy them for $80 off the web, and that'll do a single. If you really want to do 4K, a single 4K, now you need to bump that up to an i7. So now we're talking about a $300 chip to do that, but it's 6-core and multi-thread, so it's got 12 threads, 12 independent threads that it can put on transcoding that video. If you want to do family and friends, so you want to serve out 4 simultaneous 1080p high resolution feeds, transcodes, you're going to need a Xeon E5 at least. The Linux server I built has a Xeon E5 2650, which I really couldn't tell a whole lot of difference between the 2650 and the 2660. Either one of those has 8 cores and 16 threads. So it's really brute forcing it, you know. The thing about the Xeon chip, it's a business chip. It's not really meant for the consumer market. So it's a 2012 chip. All these companies like Facebook and Google had all these chips back then, and they have been upgrading their servers and they've been dumping them on the market. So they are very cheap CPUs. So I bought 2. So I've got, my Linux server has 32 threads that it's pumping against transcoding. And I have no problems whatsoever with my system. And it's definitely powerful enough to do it. So those are your minimums. Now you know, if you want to spend more money and go to more cores and all of that and higher gigahertz, you can definitely do it. On that website, on support.plextv.tv, there's another link, and we won't go into that too much, but there's another link that goes to a website called, let me think, CPU performance or something like that, CPU benchmark. And that can tell you, you know, if you're looking at a CPU to buy, whether or not it's going to be able to handle the transcoding. So that's another place. Your RAM, you're going to need 2 gigabytes minimum. You probably ought to have 8 or more gigabytes in this system. It can handle any operating system. Your storage, for the computer itself to run Plex server, you need about a terabyte. You know, and we're talking about SATA 3 hard drives, you know, which is the 6 gigabits per second. So the faster, not the 3, which is the SATA 2. You want a SATA 3, 1 terabyte minimum. But you really, you know, if you're going to put a lot of content on this thing and the computer is going to be the one to do it, you need 8 terabytes or more, really. Now, whether that's an external NAS that's holding your content, that could be the 8 terabytes. That's what I did. And my server has the 1 terabyte to run the server software. That's fine. But somewhere in there, you need quite a bit of storage to handle your media. So that's if you want to do the computer. You know, those of us that like building our own computers can do that pretty quickly. If you want to use an existing computer, you know, you've got the old Mac Mini sitting there and you don't know what to do with it. So this is some samples of things that you can do. The 3rd gen, the 2012 Mac Mini that has the i7 processor in it, it can handle the single transcode. It cannot handle the 4K transcode. It's just not fast enough. It probably cannot handle the 4 simultaneous either. Maybe it can, maybe it can't. It's kind of up against the limit, you know. So it would definitely be gasping if you tried to do that with the 3rd gen. The 4th gen, not a problem with the 4 simultaneous. From what I saw, the 4th gen came in 2 CPU types, the i5 and the i7. So the i5, I would say it's not likely you're going to be able to do the 4K transcode, but the i7, yes, you could do that. So, you know, the 4th gen, it's a fairly recent Mac Mini. It was a pretty nice option. If you have an M1, you got no problem. You can transcode all that stuff. It is definitely fast enough. So in general, you know, if you've got a Mac that's always on, you're running 10.9 Mavericks or later, you know, you got to have it a minimum an i3, but more likely an i5. 2 gigabytes of RAM, basic Plex media server should run. If you want to do 4K and multiple transcodes, you got to, you know, go back to that website and check the specs of your CPU to make sure it can handle it. So those are some options. Now, let's talk about the network attached storage option. From what I can see, looking online, there are several options. These three were the ones that I tended to find mentioned a lot for people doing this. And there are steps online, you know, Google and YouTube videos and whatnot for setting up one of these things to duplex, to use it as a Plex server. So it's not hard to do, I believe, but it's kind of pricey. You know, if you want to go this way, you're going to have to shell out some dollars. The Synology DS918 Plus, that top one, is good. It's a 4-core. Now notice, you know, all these things we're talking about at least 4-core. So the old dual core CPUs are not going to cut it. You need a CPU and a NAS thing like this that's 4-core at least. The Synology has 4 trays for hard drives. It comes with 8 gigabytes of RAM. And if you have 8 terabytes in it, you're over $1,000 on Amazon for that one. The Western Digital, also 4-core Pentium, 4 trays, 4 gigabytes. So it has a little less memory, half the memory, same terabytes for 865, you know, so that's a little more palatable. If you want to go all out, you know, and get the top of the line, the QNAP TS77 series, you know, we're talking up to 8-core Ryzen chips that just blow through this stuff. You've got SSD and hard drive trays, 64 gigs of RAM. You can put a graphics card in there to make it even faster, but you know, $3,500 on Amazon to do that.
Richard,
Yes.
how big are those machines?
If you can take a look at the drive trays and imagine that's, you know, you're looking head on at a hard drive, that might give you an idea. So the hard drives go in those trays.
Okay.
So not giant. The QNAP X77 comes in larger versions than that one. I think I saw a 12 tray drive. That thing is huge. But, you know, a 4 or a 6 tray drive should be nice and compact. Apple does provide a function called home sharing. It's similar to Plex, you know, so why wouldn't we use that instead of going through all this to set up Plex? Well, you know, like everything else Apple wants to do, they want to keep it within their ecosystem. So it's limited to sharing iTunes compatible media. Well, that's fine. That doesn't do me a lot of good in some cases. So Plex, with the Plex server, you can do many more different kinds of formats. You can transcode these things on the fly with enough performance. It's compatible with any device, not just the Apple devices, but if you've got an Android phone or Linux computer like I did, any device can do this. And it's definitely not limited to iTunes media. So it's just more flexibility. Questions on the hardware before we go to the software?
Richard, I might just mention that both my sons have Plex servers that they built themselves. And the younger single son, who has more dollars than cents, has a monster Drobo connected to his Plex server. And it's really incredible. He has a good friend who lives in Honolulu, and he watches, you know, all the video that my son has. And my son also has his entire music collection on there. So he literally has people around the world that log into his Plex server and view his content on a daily basis.
Yeah,
it's really an incredible device.
It is. And, you know, like I said, my daughter in Germany can do the same thing. It is a lot of fun to do. You know, the music files are so small, and and we're talking 8 terabytes of storage for the server at least, and up from there. You can put so much music on there, you wouldn't even be able to listen to all of it in a lifetime.
Now, you guys have said something that for the first time makes sense to me. You're talking about sharing with somebody.
Whoa,
Oops.
got a little interview.
That's okay, Ray. What you were sharing with somebody?
I hadn't thought in that context. You said you weren't going to get into content, but I understand a little more now why somebody would go to all the trouble. They want to be able to, for people almost anywhere, to share their content. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the main thing. And I'll tell you, I read this online and I experienced it myself. It is a hassle to get this going. Or it was for me with my home built Linux server. Now, these days, maybe not so much, but once you get it going, it's incredible.
Wow.
It's definitely worth it, but you got to get it going first,
Well,
And-
I've always been, I've got all the videos I've created up on Vimeo, and I can now stream those to my TV. I thought I was doing pretty good, but
yeah, this takes
Ray,
this several steps beyond that.
yeah.
But if that system and that method satisfies you and does everything you want to do, then it really would be futile for you to dive into this unless you're a bleeding edge kind of guy and you just like to do that like Richard does and like my sons do. I don't. I'm too old for that. But in interest of full disclosure, I'll say that both of my boys grew up coming to Apple Core meetings, and they're both professional geeks. They both work for Motorola, but they're still native Apple guys. However, they built their Plex servers on old Windows boxes, and they put enough RAM and processing power in each one to run this thing without any trouble. And they live, they work in a Windows world and in a Linux world, in a server world, so they have to be a multilingual. And if you have that luxury in your life, then that's really great. But it'll all work on Macs, it'll all work on Linux boxes or Windows boxes. And it's really totally transparent, as Richard's saying. I'm going to shut up now because he's doing a great job and I'm taking up his time.
That's okay. That's okay.
Leonard,
This is only my opinion.
your kids. I remember your kids coming to our meetings, and I can imagine where they are now.
I just keep telling them, I'm glad you're making all that money. I'm glad you love your job. I just hope you remember how you got there and support your old man if he ever needs it.
That's great. I like that one.
So this is my opinion only, but if you're interested in ease of use, you get it going. The NAS is probably the way. Unfortunately, it's kind of costly. Well, the Western Digital is under 1,000. But if you're more interested in ease of getting it going, this might be the way.
Would you say that if you were starting from scratch today with what you've just told us, that things are much simpler than, say, 10 years ago?
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
as a thing kind of
Yes.
into the mainstream?
It is. And for me to set up my Linux server took me days and days. I mean, it was excruciating, but as a hobby, I hung in there and I did it, so there's a sense of accomplishment for doing something hard. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. for just a casual user. You got to be a nerd like me. So these devices, I'm pretty sure, you know, they have, well, I am sure they have the native transcode in them. And they also, I think, provide good user-friendly steps to get the server loaded and going. So it is quite a bit easier, but you know, you're paying for the ease of use here with one of these things.
Yeah.
So that's the hardware. Let's talk a little bit about the software. It's called Plex Pass. Plex Pass is the server, and it's a subscription model. So, you know, you've got a monthly option, $4.99 a month, yearly option, I think it was $65 or something. The lifetime option, which in my opinion is the best, is $119 lifetime. You know, and I've been running my Plex server for several years, so I've paid for that multi times over. Occasionally it goes on sale. If you can wait for Black Friday, or not even that, some other time they put these things on sale for $90 or $95. You know, you save a little bit of money doing that. So I would go with that. And for installation, just, you know, YouTube is great. I've seen a couple of videos recently that go through it step by step. They're kind of fast, you know, YouTube videos, they speed them up for some reason and they make them kind of fast, but they're useful. Google, you know, if you want to just read instructions, that's what I did. All the Linux setup instructions were on Google.
Does anybody hire you to do this for them?
Well, you'd have to talk to my wife. She has first dibs at my time, and she always says no.
Oh, okay.
What's the monthly
But
subscription?
not, I'm willing to help. You know, you can't hire me, but I will definitely help somebody that wants to do this.
What's the monthly subscription?
$4.99.
$4.99?
Yes, for month to month. Which sounds good, you know, but
Yeah, you need to remember that fee only pays for permission to use that piece of software. That's just the beginning.
right, that's right. So, you know, you can also go to plex.tv and look at all of the resources and helpful tips and forums they've got there. Like Ray said, it's become more and more mainstream. So there's tons of help that you can get just from the plex.tv website to get all this going. All right, back to that. Thank you. Let's talk about internet. The internet connection that you have is critical to making this to work the way you want it. So on the left, you've got the media server and you're uploading your content. So in this case, you know, you've got Star Wars and you're going to put that on the internet for your allowed friends and family to download via Plex. And let's say you've got 3 people there on the right. The bottom person, you know, has maybe a little older device. They're running at 720p, which requires about 4 megabits per second. You know, the next person is 1080p and it's a little faster. And then the top person is really blowing along at 20 megabits per second. And some of the movies that I've got, you know, will go all the way up to 36 megabits per second or higher. If it's a 4K, you know, we're talking a lot of megabits per second. Well, you got to add all that up. All of that is coming through the internet, through your internet connection. So over on the left, you need to be able to upload at 32 megabits per second at minimum, to support all 3 of those downloads simultaneously. So it's not just your CPU that has to be powerful, it's your internet connection too, has to be fast. So, you know, if you're looking at service providers, AT&T Fiber, Internet 50, barely makes it. I mean, it just makes it at 50 megabits per second upload speed. And, you know, and you got to focus on upload. It's hard to do sometimes. You go to these websites and they talk about download speed. That's not what the server needs. The server needs upload speed. But
Wow.
Internet 50 does it. Spectrum, if you go to Spectrum gig internet, it's only 35 megabits per second upload, even though it's 1,000 download. So I don't know why they do that. I would not go with Spectrum for that reason. Frontier 50/50, is just enough to handle it. What I did, I signed up for AT&T Uverse gig, so I get 1,000 up and 1,000 down. So I can support multiple users, no problem.
Richard,
Yes.
out of the blue, up here in Sherman, a little country town, Frontier came to town. I've now got fiber to my back door,
Okay.
and they're all over town. I can't believe they're going to make any money in a little town like this, but it's sure great. I've been on about a month. I think the first time since I've been on here that I've got high-speed internet. But
What plan did you sign up for, if we can ask?
Frontier,
Did you do the gig internet, the 1,000?
yeah,
Cool. Yeah.
same price I'd been paying for, fiber, but fiber fiber shared by the neighborhood. Now I've got my own fiber hub.
Right. Yeah. Right to your bag. That's nice. Very nice.
Hey, Richard, I got a question. You mentioned you had Uverse
Yes.
gig. I've got Uverse too, but the best I can get would be a 50 megabits upgrade or download.
You mean they won't let you?
He said it didn't have the capability. It's not fiber, so that's probably, I guess, the problem. But I thought Uverse would have, if it's a Uverse, which I've had for many, many years. I finally had it upgraded, but he said the highest I could get was 50. I think it's over copper wire.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's
So
the problem. That's the problem I have. They advertise fiber to a certain distance, and then it's wire before that. So it's like it doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
A couple of years ago, I started having problems with mine too. I'd signed up for the gig, and my speed started going down drastically, and I didn't know why. So I called them up, and they started giving me that runaround too. And I said, look, I'm paying for this. I want those speeds, or I'm gonna switch. So they had a couple of guys come out, and they switched out the big box on next to my garage. And now I've got, I get 900 upload, 950 upload now.
Really?
So, sometimes you gotta talk to these guys and say, look, 50 is not going to cut it if I'm paying for 1,000.
So when you say the gig, so was that tied in with Uverse itself, or is it a special add-on to Uverse?
It was Uverse, and I did this, gosh, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, maybe more.
Mm-hmm.
But they're probably, I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they want people to switch over to fiber or DirecTV, or I don't know what. I've read things online that they want to get people off of Uverse.
Yeah.
But so far I've been able to maintain mine with the new box they put outside my garage, and maybe it's a fiber box. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm able to maintain 950 upload.
Okay, but when you say you use the term gig, I hadn't heard that when I worked with my Uverse before.
Gigabit is what
Yeah.
that's for. Yeah.
Okay, they're just saying the speed wise.
Yes, speed wise.
Okay.
Well, maybe they call it 1,000 megabits. That's the same as 1 gigabit per second.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Yes, so yeah, you might want to call and say, look, here's the deal. Let's go on to the next one. When you do this and you go through all the steps required to set up your server, you also have to go in and do some things on your modem, your router from AT&T or Frontier or whoever you get. Again, I'm not going to go into those details today. There's plenty of steps online and from your provider itself on how to do this. But you have to set up certain ports, certain authorizations so that everybody that you allow can have access to your content. So it's one more thing to set up, but it's worth it and you got to do it. And those of us that have done it can help if you'd like, if somebody is really serious about doing this. But you can't forget that step or it won't work. So server software, router software, updates, and then you should be good to go. As far as the apps, there are Plex apps for all the devices. You can see that you've got Mac, iOS, Apple TV has one. There's an old thing called the Media Player for Mac OS home theater PCs. I'm not even sure what that is, but that's a different app, but they're all there. If you're putting it on iOS, so your iPhone or your iPad, you do have to pay a one-time activation fee of $4.99. Or if you are subscribing to Plex Pass, you get that for free on your mobile device. What that activation fee does is it removes a 1 minute timeout. So without that, you can watch content for 1 minute and then it stops. So that's no good. So you pay your $4.99, and if you have Apple sharing, that works. You can actually share that activation with other people in your family. For all the non-mobile, your computer and all of that, it's free. You don't have to pay the activation fee. And this is just the app. We're not talking about the server software anymore. The app has a separate fee for mobile devices. One time.
Are you saying these are for people now that they just want to use your Plex server?
Yes.
So if you allow them, anybody can use one of these apps and access, or anybody's Plex server that gives you, is that what you're saying?
Correct. That's right. So you might be allowed on several people's Plex servers, which that would be cool. But yes, that's right.
Yeah. Wonder where you would find a list of Plex servers.
You would have to know somebody that has one and, request to be added to their authorization list. And then they would go through several steps to add you to it. Yeah. It's not something you can just go searching on the internet for.
I see.
That would be
Richard, I'm reading the last 3 lines on this slide, and you did a good job of reading and explaining that. But I want to make sure I understand it correctly. Would a MacBook or MacBook Pro, it sounds like that would not be considered, and you would not have to pay that activation fee because it's,
correct.
As you have written there, it's for iOS apps. Is that right?
That's right. Yes.
Okay, so a MacBook would not be a mobile device, considered a mobile device.
I believe that's my understanding too. Yes.
Okay, now one more thing for clarification. If the owner and operator of the Plex server is a Plex Pass owner and user, then anyone that he wants to give access to does not have to pay the mobile access fee. Is that correct?
With Apple Family Sharing, that is correct. Now,
Okay.
I didn't research the limits of Apple Family Sharing, So it's possible that, a friend of yours who you don't have on Apple Family Sharing would have to pay the $4.99 fee on their iPhone.
Okay. Thanks.
Mhm. That's the last slide. We're getting close to 11 o'clock. We can either do more questions, or I can fire up my Plex and just give you a short demo of what it looks like. And
Yay, yay.
I'd like to ask one more question, if I might, Richard.
yes,
And I want to engage Tim Baker. My recollection is maybe at least 2 years ago, Tim Baker was live and in person at the Apple Core meeting and did a presentation on his Plex server. Is that correct, Tim?
No,
Yes.
No, you did.
no. In fact, Rich, I've been since motivated here. I just bought a Synology, and I'm interested now in creating a Plex server. But no, I did not demonstrate.
Okay,
Plex.
thank you. Does anybody remember a Plex presentation at an Apple Core meeting, or did I dream that?
I kind of do. No, I do it. It might have been Jonesy.
Yeah, Jonesy had one, I think.
Okay. Well, that was my first introduction to it, and this has really been good, Richard. I
Yes.
appreciate it. It's
Yep.
helped put a lot of pieces together
First
for
class. Yeah.
me. Even though I'm a user, I don't always understand everything I do. I just do it because my son says it works.
So
Thank
what I've got up on the screen is on my Mac Mini. This is the Plex app that I downloaded from the App Store. When I did this, with the new App Store on these Macs, this is basically the same app as the iOS. But like I said, it's free on non-mobile devices, so I didn't have to pay to use this. And in fact, it kind of warned me on the App Store. It said not verified for Mac use, but it seems to work fine. So, things are kind of evolving real time here, I guess. So this is the app from the App Store, and it has all my content. You can see all the movies along the top, home movies, so all my family movies I've been able to convert to things that I could upload to Plex. We bought a few TV shows, and I've got all the Beatles CDs that I've added down here under music.
Well, now, this raises the question. I'm fixing to watch one of your commercial movies that I didn't purchase, and maybe 100 other people are going to watch it, and they didn't purchase it.
Mhm.
Is there licensing issues?
So I figured this question would come up at some point, and I don't have an answer for you. I'm not a legal expert. I think everybody has to make their own decision on what they are going to do. That's all I can say.
But Plex.com doesn't take any responsibility for this. You're on your own, huh?
Correct, because the server app and the user apps are perfectly fine, but it's up to each individual person to decide how they want to handle their content.
Yeah.
So you got to do your own research there. So anyway, what you can do over here on the left is there's a menu of options you can pick from. And so it can, I can either pick from these little icons of things, or I can go over here to the side.
A new station alert has arrived.
And when I hit more, there's even more things I can do. Let's go down here to under where it says Plex. So I scroll down under more, and it says movies and shows. Let me just show you. These are all the movies and shows that you get for free. So I didn't do any of this. This just comes up when you subscribe to Plex. I guess similar to subscribing to Netflix or, you know, Disney Plus or whatever, except these movies, these these are some interesting movies. Some are not too bad, you know, but some are just awful. But people like some of this stuff anyway.
That's funny.
These are some of the movies that I've uploaded. And let's say I want to watch Ant-Man. So I click on that and all this information automatically comes up. So this is one of the great benefits of Plex. Not only are you able to transcode to anybody on the internet, it goes in and it pulls all the metadata, which means, you know, all the pictures and information and the ratings and all this stuff automatically off the internet and populates your Plex with it. So I didn't do any of this. This is all automatic, which is very cool. So when I look over here on the left, I can either resume or I can start over. Let me see if I hit resume. See, it says start from the beginning or resume from where I last watched it. So if I wanted to go pop some popcorn or something, I can come back and resume, or I can start from the beginning. So when I hit the resume button, what my system is doing is the server is going out and pinging my NAS. And it's saying, we want to get Ant-Man running again. Now, my NAS is set up so that it's pretty much sleeping most of the time until somebody wants to use it. So there's going to be a short delay. So when I do that, now it's going out and saying, NAS, give me Ant-Man. And I'm waiting. So in this, I could probably set it up where it's not sleeping, but you know, I don't want it running hot all the time. So I'm willing to accept a short delay while the NAS wakes up and starts running this movie. So we'll give it a few more moments. All right. And from this point on, it's going to run it smoothly. Every once in a while, I've noticed my system does something weird and I haven't diagnosed it yet exactly. So what I can do, let me bring up my, that's not going to let me do that. Not that. Can you hear the video or is it silent?
I hear something in the background.
Do you hear it?
Not hearing the audio.
Okay, not the audio.
We're also getting some delay. It's very stuttery. And that
Interesting.
may be just because it's going through so many. We're not seeing it in real time.
That's interesting.
I mean, it's going through jumping through a lot of hoops, going through 2 or 3 year systems before it even gets online.
Yes. So on my screen, it's perfectly smooth. There's no jumping whatsoever. So maybe going
I think it has something to do with your incoming bandwidth because mine's smooth.
Me too.
Okay.
My
That could
video
very well be the case.
No audio.
Is everybody seeing smooth video?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Mine's
then
smooth, I think.
it's on my end then.
I just
see,
don't.
that's, you know, that's a good demo of your internet service provider package. You know, making sure that you've got something that can handle the downloads on, you know, on your end, you're getting downloads. On my end, it's the upload from the server.
Well, I only have a maximum of 70 megabits per second on my Spectrum cable download. So that is really quite possible that it's some issues for me only.
Yeah.
So mine, it doesn't fill my whole screen. Is there a way that I could have made it bigger? I don't have a very big But I have a laptop, and not a very big one.
There's probably a full screen button.
Okay, never mind.
The green button up in the upper left-hand corner.
Oh, I think I see it. Well, right now, it does say my client connection is encrypted. But right now, I have all of us speaking little and the main person speaking, filling the full screen.
Okay, good.
But it was back when he was showing the movie I was trying to make. Well, I was wondering if I could make it big.
Oh, yeah, you're filming. Okay.
But when you all come on, you all are coming on like you're sitting right across the table from me.
I
So
like
that's just a quick demo of a system that is several years old doing it. You know, so a modern system is going to be even better,
And I
would say,
think
and
whatever's
easier to
looking
set
at
up.
you is also very good. I could count every hair on your face. It is so clear.
Yeah, you know,
Some of the
going
other
with the
people,
going with the 1,000 megabits per second internet, it costs me about a $200 a month charge, and that's TV and internet. You know, so again, that's a little pricey. I don't have a discount right now. I could probably get one if I push hard enough, but right now I don't.
Oh, well, from AT&T, just so I can run my TV barely, I guess, because so I can run my computer, not my phone. My phone is from my daughter in California, has me on her, I don't even know, Verizon something or other.
Right.
Anyway, but mine is 274. I think I don't have a very good deal.
How is my video to everyone this morning?
Looks pretty good to me, Ray.
Good.
It's not as clear as Richard's, though.
Should be a lot better than the last time I was on here.
You're
The only issue I see with your video, Ray, is the lighting. Everything I see is tinted yellow because you have what looks like an incandescent light source to your right.
You're correct, Leonard. Yeah.
But actually, I can see you very clear. And your shirt, oh, interesting. Your shirt on one side is blue and white, and on the other side, there's some red in it.
That's a lighting issue.
That's pretty funny.
Paul Sheldon, I see you had some questions.
Yes, I have. I was checking what you were talking about, internet speeds. I was checking on my speed on there. I'm paying AT&T for their supposedly best thing, and it says 29 point something megabytes per second, and that's the fastest I have ever gotten. Now is that
Megabytes or megabits? Is it a little b or a big B?
Let me just look at that. It's a little b.
Okay, 29 megabits per second. That sounds like a basic package. That doesn't sound like a top of the line package.
Well, we're paying $70 a month for that little stupid thing.
Now, you know, it might be, this is what they tell me, might be your device. You know, it might not be the AT&T end of it. What device are you checking that on?
Oh, I'm checking on my computer right now with one is called ULA.
Yes. Okay.
And the other is Internet Speed Test Fast.com. And they're both reading the same thing.
But I mean, what is your computer?
Oh, my computer is a Mac, 24-inch, about 4 or 5 years old.
4 or 5. I mean, it should have a gigabit Ethernet connection, right? Are you doing wireless or wired?
Both. I'm wired in right now.
That's pretty low for top of the line. Yeah.
Yeah, but I went to AT&T and they don't. It doesn't look like they offer anything better than that.
Yeah, I think this is one of the societal problems is advertising. It's as bad as car insurance. So much misinformation used to sell internet services.
Well, you have to read the small print because it says, even though you think you're going to get 700, 800,000, whatever, the small print says speeds up to, which means anything from 0 to that speed is acceptable to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first thing. And even then, they sometimes don't deliver what you're promised.
Well, I'm running the speedtest.net from Ookla on my M1 Mac Mini.
Okay.
So you can see that it's just blowing it away. So, if you're paying for this and you're not getting this, you need to get on the phone to them,
Okay.
I would say, and say,
Yeah.
do something about this.
Maybe we ought to have a session on this, how to know what you're getting and how to get it if you're not getting it.
Yes.
When Frontier came around, a guy that I know explained this, and I kind of think he.
Oops, somebody's.
Before I was paying, they said you got fiber. We've got a fiber connection for you. What he said was, yeah, they do have fiber, but that fiber goes out to a hub in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
From there, you're simply cable. But with real fiber, the fiber comes right to your back door and you're the only person on that fiber connection. And sure enough, they had to put a new box by the back door, and they even had to put a new box at the modem. And I seem to have the best internet connection that I've ever had for the same price I was paying for the other.
Yeah.
And it's really great.
I think that you hit the nail on the head about your own box at the back door, or right up to your house. There needs to be a box. If there's not, you're not getting what you're paying for, I think.
Sometimes it actually depends on the individual tech. That you may get a bad tech one time, and then the next time you get somebody that's really excited about what they do, and they're very helpful. The first time I originally had fiber run to my house, I got a particular modem, but then I called back and they said, yeah, you got the latest and greatest. But then I got fiber at my mother's house, and she got yet a newer modem router,
Mm-hmm.
and her fiber went right into the modem, and it didn't terminate at the back of the house, say for instance. So I called them up and I said, I've been a customer for so many years. My mother just got cable or just got fiber, and hers is faster than mine. She's 95 years old, and I've been a customer for quite a while, and I'm getting slower speeds. So the guy, I called, and sure enough, they came out and they delivered a new, a new, as I guess you can't really see it there, but it's a newer style fiber modem where the fiber optic comes right to the modem itself. And that did definitely make a difference in my fiber speeds.
Well, now, Tim, that's interesting. The the installer that put in ours, he made the point that the modems they are using have to have a little external box. It is a standard modem, but they add this little box. Now that's Frontier's way of doing it. Maybe it's cheaper for them, but you're saying that there are modems now that accept the fiber cable directly, and we didn't get that.
We don't have that either.
Right, mine is not that way either. My modem takes just a basic Cat5 cable from the outside box, and I'm still able to get my 900 plus megabits per second through that.
That's great. I want to be able to do that.
I forget what
Oh,
the
that-
acronym is, but yes, Ray, I know what you're talking about. I used to have a box behind my desk that where the fiber terminated, and then it went from an Ethernet cable from that box to my modem. But now they took away that little box, and now the fiber comes right through the attic, in through the wall, and plugs in to a fiber optic connection right into the modem
Boy,
itself.
That now we're getting somewhere. Then you would really know what you're getting.
I'll have to look the model number up of the router in just a moment, and I'll give you that
I
information.
wonder if one reason they do that is that they want to get people hooked up, and they don't want to have to run. They want to come to your back door in about 30 minutes. They've got you fixed. They don't want to have to run fiber into your attic and over to your modem.
Yeah.
That's something they don't want to do. So you're still got a piece of coax from the back door, but looks like we're getting 90% of it or something. I don't know.
Richard, I'm concerned about, curious about backups. Do you have offsite storage, offsite backup space for your NAS and your really big gargantuan storage devices?
Yes, I've got a couple of, I think one is an 8 terabyte over there, the Western Digital, my book.
Oh.
So yes, I do.
But that is backed up offsite.
No, I mean, it's
Okay.
at my house. You mean it's not connected to the NAS.
For example, if lightning struck and your NAS was destroyed, then you would be at a total loss. Is that correct?
Not a total loss because I still own all the Blu-rays.
Oh, okay, yeah. I have a 4 terabyte Buffalo NAS. It's a number of years old. I paid like $600 for it at the time, and I configured it as a RAID 5,
Yeah.
so I can lose an entire. I have 4 1 terabyte drives in it, and I can, if one of those drives goes bad, I can yank it out, put a blank one in, and it totally reconfigures itself, and I haven't lost anything. So at this point, I do not have it backed up anywhere. However, if the ultimate catastrophe hit, then I would be in a world of hurt.
So in my case,
If all-
the Synology NAS I bought several years ago has 2 bays in it. Each bay has an 8 terabyte hard drive, and it's set up as a pretty simple RAID. So I could lose one of those and put a new one in. If I lost both of those, I'm just willing to accept, the risk that it's going to take me a long time to get those Blu-ray discs back out and repopulate a new NAS.
Right. Thank you.
Is anybody else using Backblaze for their main computer backup? Yeah, I really like. Have you restored anything, Jim? I had to restore, and they've now got they keep you backed up for 30. You can go back as far as 30 days if you lost something. And I tried that, and it sure worked. I was able to get something that was had already run out of time on the main backup, and it's $6 a month. Now that doesn't back up my externals, but it sure is handy for the basic computer.
Yeah, Backblaze is neat. It has a unique history in that it was developed by ex-Macintosh engineers.
Yeah. Yeah.
The modem that I have is called a BGW 32500.
Say that slow.
B It's B as in Baker, G as in George, W as in William, dash 320-500.
Thank you.
And one of the advantages is it has Wi-Fi 6, which is, which a lot of your newer iOS devices have. So it gives you faster speeds with your iOS devices because it has 802.11a, N, AC, and AX. So that was one of the reasons why I specifically wanted that one, is because I have an iPad Pro and a newer iPhone 12, which uses the AX Wi-Fi 6 technology. But the acronym that I was looking for earlier is called an ONT, and that's what's probably on Ray's wall behind his router, is what they call an ONT. And when they put this modem in, they get rid of the ONT, and the ONT is actually built right into this modem. So it takes fiber right to the box. And I would not have known about this unless I had been there when AT&T installed fiber at my mother's house. And I said, hey, this is a completely different setup, and she's getting much faster speeds. And I did a speed test, and it's like, I want those speeds at my house, so that's why I called them, and I managed to get my system updated. And you do have to stay on top of them. And I think it does make a difference as to what tech you get. You may not be satisfied the first time you get somebody. Just call them back and get somebody else to come out, because sometimes you get lucky and you do find somebody that really cares.
Thank you, Tim.
Richard, I've got to run, but I sure enjoyed your presentation this morning as usual. And I've always wondered about Plex. I think Jonesy talked about it one time, but I know a lot more about it now, and thank you very much. See you all next month, I hope.
See you next month. Yes, thanks. No problem. I hope it wasn't too technical.
Good to see you, Ray.
Thanks.
Thanks, Richard.
By the way, Jonesy is not well right now. I think it's a back problem. He had to go to the hospital for it, just so you know.
Oh dear. Well, Richard, thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Richard.
Over my head, but I keep learning a teeny bit each time. At least I
Well, if
know.
anybody, like I said, anybody wants to try this, I'm willing to help, where I can. It's not just push one button, you're going to have to spend some time getting it set up, but it's worth it.
Thank you, Richard.
I'm doing okay with my simple connections.
All right, take
Children
care.
know how to call me, and they know how to put the picture on. So, because everybody lives far away. So I don't know, mine works okay. And it all comes on my watch, just in case I'm not right in front of my TV.
Oh,
That's the one thing I did not research, the watch. Can you do Plex on the watch? I don't know.
Well,
next
I don't know
time.
why you would want to watch a movie on that little bit.
no, I don't want to watch a movie, but I
Ask your wife.
Yes,
when
right.
I'm mowing, I can get a message on my watch if somebody wants to call me. Or I like the fact that actually, if I were to fall down and not tell the watch I was okay, somehow somebody would come pick me up.
Or you could lay there and watch a movie, if you had Plex on your phone.
I'll wear it for the safety aspect of it.
I followed.
One if you don't turn it off properly. So, that's instead of having somebody living with me. So it works fine.
I've fallen down and I'm watching my movie.
Well, there is, you can push a button that just says I'm okay.
Okay, good.
I just know that if I were to fall and not be okay, the watch will call 911.
Oh,
That's good.
Yeah, it's a very good deal for old people like me.
I'm going to get one.
Okay, take care. I'm signing off.
You. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you very much, Richard. I'm
Thank you,
excited
Richard.
to give it a shot.
Adios, folks. I'm out as well.
Bye now.
Okay, I'm gonna
Thank
have some more say goodbye before I say goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep, thanks. Good to see you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye, Barbara. Good to see you.
Bye, Barbara.
Okay.
I think Taylor will turn us all off when he thinks we're all done. Is
Yep.
he still up far away? I don't even know.
I think he's still in Montana.
Does a good job of taking care of us anyway.
Yeah.
I'm going to be moving, and I'm going to be moving to an independent living facility. So they will
Where?
be me my internet. So I won't have my own internet any longer. I'll be switched to, they have Spectrum, and it didn't sound like Spectrum would work with Plex. And besides, I'm going to have such a small place. There's no room for all the equipment I would need for Plex.
But Barbara, moving here in town or elsewhere?
In town.
So you want to tell people like me who should be already moved?
It's not going to be till September, October. So,
No, but where are you going?
oh, it's called Legacy Midtown Park. It's near
Oh.
Presbyterian Hospital area.
Yeah, I've long time ago, I want to say 10 years, maybe only 8 or 9. I put my $1,000 down for Highland Springs, partially just to keep my family happy that I had potential.
But I live right up 2 minutes away from Highland Springs, but I don't like it there very much. This new place, just the one I'm moving to, just opened in February. So it's brand new and it's very contemporary. And I like contemporary stuff. So,
Yep, that's good.
yeah. So it's.
No, I'm not moving yet, but I did that just to keep my family comfortable that I had a potential if I needed it. It was worth it. Kind of like an insurance, keep people off my back.
Yeah.
So,
But I'll be closer to where ACD is going to be meeting. Since I'm further down Central.
actually, maybe only in a few months.
And they have not opened back up yet.
I suspect they will soon.
I'll be checking with them.
The Frisbee retired nurses had their first, after 15 months, first luncheon last Wednesday. Normally 30, 35, 36 people show up, 46 people showed up.